talking to us about. So welcome, Wendy Lee. We are here today on Ladies Power Lunch, and she is going to talk to us today about Heal to Shine. And I'm so excited to hear a little bit more about that. But first, Wendy Lee, do you mind introducing yourself to us?
First of all, hi, everybody. And as always, Ladies Power Luncheon just rocks. It's like the best space for entrepreneur women and a few good, as Dr. Davia says, for us to come together. So if you're on and you're listening, it's your first time, your thousandth time, this is such an awesome place. So I'm honored to be here with Jen. So my name is Wendy Lee, and I'm a transformational life coach. I'm a newly published author. I'm a singer. I'm an animal lover. I just rescued 5 kittens. That's for another time. So I just am at this point in my life where I'm feeling really good and juicy, and that's a nice spot to be, because it hasn't always been that way. I started my career in the corporate world and did that for 30 something years, winding up as the head of HR. And as I was doing all this striving, I came to this kind of lull in my life, and I started doing this transformation journey and got so much out of it that at the height of my career, I decided to leave that behind because this was calling me to go into business for Leadership Revolution as a transformational life coach. And so here we are today. And through that process is how I actually met Dr. Davia on a transformational coaching retreat. And so we've been 2 peas in a pod ever since. So
I love those full circle stories.
Yes. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about this process that you're talking about. I think it will be so beneficial. So off air, real quick, we were just chatting, and I think that everyone sort of comes, to the forefront of our lives at the perfect moment. So I'd love to hear more about Heal to Shine and what it is that transformed you and the story behind it, because we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, just raise your hand if there's things in your life that needed that attention, that love, that healing, right? We all have something. But when I kind of use the word healing, it's about how are we seen, validated, feel safe, feel like we belong, all of those things that are really part of our hierarchy of needs as we're growing up. And there's always some circumstances where we don't feel that way. And in my case, what happened is I developed this response system to being victimized. Probably the hardest thing for me was sexual abuse. There was other things. There was a lot of craziness that went on in my family, and that's a lot of our stories. But there was something about that just took the wind out of my sails, like really just stole all of my oxygen. And yes, that was terrible. But the part that was the hardest, that created so much suffering, was not getting any intervention after that happened. Like nobody's sitting down and saying, you're safe now, everything's okay, it's not your fault, whatever it was. So as kids, right, we don't have an adult mind. We're going to put together, which usually means that we take responsibility for adult behavior. We turn into a chameleon and shapeshift ourselves into all these different ways to work around everybody else's stuff, because we're thinking it must have been something I did, right? And so how can I make this person still love me? Because it's still, in my case, it was my father. It was my father. So you're not making sense of stuff. And so I went out in the world with this mindset which kind of split me off into two camps, like an uber masculine, I can do it, I can prove myself, I don't need your help, because I couldn't trust myself or anybody else. Or this kind of, I call it an unhealthy feminine, where I would be the complete opposite, like this damsel in distress victim. And so guess what happened? All this energy that floats around was like, oh, there's a perfect place to dock. And so I just repeated patterns over and over until I get to this breaking point in my life where it's like, my soul's like, you know what, sister girl, nope, no more. And I had a few collapses along the way, but this was really got my attention. And it got me on this road of maybe there is a different way. Like when we're stuck in that mindset, there's only one way. It feels rigid. I can only respond this way. We don't even know that we have these other possibilities. So I started on my transformational journey, and I was lucky enough to connect with a coach that set the stage for me to process those feelings that I never got a chance to.
So tell me a little bit more, Wendy Lee, about that moment that you knew like something had to change. Like what in that moment, just to help people, because I feel like sometimes we know something's there and we just keep pushing along. Or, you know, I'm generalizing. I can definitely relate to a lot of what you're talking about with this, like, you know, I'm like, go, we're going to get this done. I get crap done. I don't need anybody else. Like, you know,
Yes.
this very, very wounded masculine, like,
Yes.
and I get into that habit every once in a while still.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what was that moment and how did you feel? Maybe just to share a little bit more, a little bit deeper with people, like what was it?
Yeah.
Just for people to be aware that, you know, maybe you're there right now and
Mm.
need some help.
Yeah. It was kind of this perfect storm, which, you know, that's how the universe works.
To get our attention.
Yeah, it was trying at first to be kind of nice and sweet, like, hey, you don't have to
Right.
suffer so much, you know, and then it was kind of like this little poke in the arm. And then I call it the hitting the head with the frying pan. You know, I'm from Texas, so bopping you on the head with this frying pan to really get your attention. So I thought at the time, the behaviors I was getting caught up in, like I was super successful at work. But then in my personal life, I would hook up with these energies that just totally drained me. And I would turn into this complete person that I was not. But I did not realize that it really was operating from the same thing. Like I was still in the get mode. I'll do whatever I can to get the love that I need, both in my work and my business. So, I mean, basically what happened is I had come out of a divorce, started dating, and I ended up dating almost back to back two narcissists, which I didn't know what that meant. I had no clue. I just knew that I thought I was going crazy, got through the first one, and then somebody told me about it, got some insights. I'm like, okay, I'm armed and ready, good to go. I get back into dating, and
You do it all
damn it,
over
if I
again.
didn't do it all over again. But here's the thing. It's like I was given the most extreme narcissist. So the duration was 4 months, but it was like 10 years squeezed in 4 months of gaslighting and making me feel like I was being crazy. And I was participating in that, right? That's the thing. It's like, so I had already started my transformational work. I could have just collapsed, and I wanted to. Like I was at the bottom. I was where the sludge is, right? But something in me, that spark, that little something said, you know what? You have an option. Because I had started doing some of the retreats. I had started doing some things. I knew there was an option. And I called one of my dear friends who was kind of on a similar path, but she was a few steps ahead of me. And I just called her and I said, of course, sobbing, we could barely understand what I was saying. I'm in trouble and I need help. Because otherwise I wanted to jump off a bridge. And I literally had come from that person's house, and I had to drive over this bridge, and I was kind of negotiating. Can I go fast enough that I can just go and end it all? But I'm a scared cat of heights. So luckily I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, and I really didn't want to kill myself. I wanted to not feel this just deep betrayal that my soul knew. And it was a habit. I just got in a habit of being the victim, but I'm not a victim. I was victimized, and I have different outlets. And so it really opened up. I went to her house for a week. She got me back into some pieces with loving and understanding. And then from there, it was like, okay, I really want to get to the bottom of this. And so I was open and receptive and ready, and found a safe spot to do that.
I wasn't laughing at you a few minutes ago when you were talking about you had to do it a second time. I also am divorced, and I had to do 2 sociopaths back to back, and, you know, had to get literally hit over the head to realize like, hey, like this isn't healthy.
Right.
10 years later, it has sprouted itself out though. I didn't heal some of the things that I thought I healed, and they came full circle when a friend got divorced, dating, sociopath, treating her like crap, and then just saying, oh no, I love you, you're amazing, you know, and just kind of like, up, back to it. So it brought up some stuff. So, you know, I think feeling it, sometimes we don't want to feel it and we push things down instead of healing, which is what, you know, I think you're about to talk about next. Is like, so what is the healing, and, you know, what do you do for your clients in this process of healing?
Oh, beautiful question. And, you know, that's part of why I talked about my story, because I know I'm not the only one. And you don't even have to have gone through this exact same thing to feel like you don't matter, right? And so I kind of understand that it's an onion. Like that, when we're not able to process our feelings that are real, they get stuck in our body, right? And they're going to show up in different ways: anxiety, depression, sickness, all kinds of things that our body tries to get our attention because it needs to get up and out.
Right.
But we don't feel safe to do that. I call it swallowing rocks. So we just keep swallowing the rocks till it turns into this big old boulder that we're carrying around. And so I understand all the processes. I understand when I didn't know, and I had no clue, and I was doing the best I could with what I did. And man, we need to give ourselves high fives for just even making it through that stuff. So don't discount yourself if you're still on the road for recovery. It is a process. Some of these wounds go into our marrow. They are deep in there. And so I really try to hold a safe spot. I'm very vulnerable with my sharing because I've done my healing, hoping that people will connect to some part of my story and say, hey, if that person can do it, I can do it. And not going it alone, right? We suffer in silence so often because we just feel ashamed or whatever it is that keeps us in that stuck spot. There's no way that anybody else could have experienced this, right?
Yep.
But
I mean, we can go into like, you know, why we don't ask for help and things like that. And, you know, I think that's part of it. So when I heard you say you asked for help, like that right there, you could tell that like you were on your journey because you actually were like seeking answers and looking for someone to help you. So, you know, don't do it alone. It's
don't do it alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a coach for the last 10 years because I know that there's parts of me that I still can't see that somebody else that has the experience that can. And even when I was in the corporate world, I had already started coaching. I mean, I understood very early on that when people came into my office with a so-called employee relations issue, it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with something that happened that they're just happened to be carrying with them at that moment. But we don't keep those safe spaces in the workplaces. So I started kind of sneaking it in a little bit. But what I know is that through retreats, I love retreats. I love having a space where you can get away for 3 to 5 days. And I mean, you get to know yourself and people in those, like within the first 24 hours, you know things about people that you don't get to know for some people for 10 years, because we're creating this safe, vulnerable space. And when you get it in a group of like-minded people that are searching for the same thing, like we're not talking about the weather. We get right into the things that really matter, and we can start to move that stuff away. And when the feelings come up, we don't judge them. It's just notice what you're noticing, you know, crying or anger or whatever it is. It just needs to come up. Be
What I
seen.
like about retreats too, right, is that you're getting away from life, because I
Yeah.
think that, is distracting. Maybe you do want to work on this, but you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a sister, you're a brother, whatever it is. It's like you haven't made the space for yourself to be with yourself and
Yeah.
others, but be with yourself is, can be scary.
And giving that enough time to do that. So I like to do the retreat and then move into a longer mastermind type program that then supports, because transformation is, I don't want to say it's hard, because to me, staying where you are is the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life.
Right.
You're going to suffer more there, but we don't know that.
Right.
So we guess that it's just going to be, and it is hard. Things are going to come up, but there's such a relief when they finally come up to light and somebody says, I see you. And just hold that space. So I'm really on a mission, because if I'm not healed, I'm not showing up in the world in a lighted up place. And by the way, you don't have there's no destination to heal. It's healing, right? Every time we go do something that's going to shift us around, new level, new devil, things are going to show up. And that's okay. You just understand the process, and then you don't have the judgment around it. But I'm really on this mission that we are in such a beautiful time right now. Like things are shifting, and we cannot all come on board and shine if we are still going inward and just keeping ourselves closed off, or having our trauma keep us closed off because we've been in the behavior of response. And the world is like, hey, we need you. Come on board. And so I'm really, really want to start this movement, this revolution about changing how we lead. Leadership revolution is about how can we step into our life, in our business, and what we do in our everyday interactions to invite people in, that this is safe. Let's do this together. So
Feels good.
yes, it's
Feels
exciting. It's exciting. And I don't know if you noticed this, Jen, but the more that we do that, people are like almost waiting, like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you.
You're my person.
Yeah, right. But we keep these little things in our mind that, oh, they won't think that way, so I'm not going to tell my thing. I'm not going to say my story. I'm not going to live in my truth every day. No, people are waiting for you to do that. And then you just bring along, right? It's like a buy one, get one, a BOGO. Let's do this.
I love it. So today is Ladies Power Lunch Free Gift Friday. So what do you have going on, and what are you offering that we can let people know? And while you do that, I'm actually going to check in with the chat in the live Facebook group, see if there's any questions.
Yeah, awesome. So thanks to Ladies Power Luncheon, Dr. Davia, and Elizabeth Hill. I've just been one of the authors for Be the Beacon. And in that, my chapter is Lessons from a Firefly, and talking about how fireflies, in order to shine bright, they basically need oxygen. But where are we giving away oxygen? Where are we taking in good oxygen? Like, where are the leaks? And how are we being a good steward about that? So I would love to give away a one complimentary one-on-one connection discovery call with me. So it'd be a coaching call. And it really is about like, what's coming up for you right now? And where would you like to be as part of the transformation? So that's basically what I'm offering today, because that's how it started for me. It started with hopping on a call with somebody. Didn't know a thing about what coaching was.
Now it's coming full circle, right? Like,
yes,
giving it back and putting it back out there. So we actually have a winner. Hopefully I'm not going to botch her last name. Laureen Guerrero is the winner of that.
Congratulations.
Discovery call with Wendy Lee. All right.
So we'll pop in do you want me to say how she can get on my thing, or we'll pop it in the chat, or I'll get connected with her?
I think we can connect you with her. That's what we'll do. We can, I'm sure she's actually probably on. I was trying to look on my phone, but I took Facebook off my phone, so I couldn't look at it. So, and then do you have anything else going on, Wendy Lee, that you would like to tell us a little bit about? And also, how can people connect with you?
Yeah. So the connection call for her, congratulations again. But I do want to offer everybody something to walk away with, because this takes a lot of vulnerability. But what I have learned, and what you understand too, Jen, is that when we can kind of be a good steward of our vulnerability, meaning vulnerability with good discernment, good boundaries, understanding, there's this host of benefits that we get from that. So anybody that's on the call today can connect and get on my email address by going to leadhershiprevolution.com/vulnerability. And you're basically going to get a guide that has 10 surprising ways that you can basically have your vulnerability be to your advantage, not a disadvantage or being taken advantage of while you're being vulnerable. So that's one thing. The other thing is that Tuesday nights I do Transformational Live. So you can connect with me on Facebook. On Facebook, I'm under Wendy Lee. And then my Facebook page is Leadership Revolution. You can also connect with me on Instagram. And on Instagram, it's Leadership Revolution. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Wendy Lee. So any way that you guys want to connect, and I'm always looking to collaborate. So I love conversations like this where we can just sit and collaborate, because as you said before, Jen, there's no there's no by chance. All of this stuff is happening for us, through us. And so we know that there's spaces on here for everybody to connect. And so if you want to just reach out and send me a messenger and say, hi, you want to connect, please do, because we're all in this together. We're definitely all in this together.
And we can provide all that stuff in the chat of the live, and also the show notes to connect with Wendy Lee. And, I want to just say to the people out there, sometimes we don't know that we're in a space of needing healing. So quick story is that in January, I just kept saying, like, I feel like I'm in this deep healing. I couldn't describe it. I couldn't say what it looked like. Like, I didn't know why, but I just felt like there was a healing happening. And 10 months later, I now know, or almost 11 months later, I now know what it's all about. And I'm sure there's months more to come. But once you start paying attention to how you feel in different situations, you might realize that there's some healing that needs to happen for you. And Wendy is your light. So
Mm.
definitely connect with her if you're feeling like you two want to have a conversation, or just, check her out. She's doing some lives on Tuesday. You said
Yeah,
Tuesday?
Transformational Tuesday.
And, check her out if you don't know who she is, or like she said, send her a private message, because I know sometimes we connect with people we don't really know yet, and follow that intuition and make the connection. So we are going to wrap up, or
I
unless you
love
have
what,
something.
yeah, I love what you said about sometimes we just don't know.
Mhm.
Our soul always knows.
Mhm.
It's trying to get our attention, but our mind overrides it because we want to make sense of everything. But for me, it's like once we start on that healing journey, that's why I still work with a coach.
Mhm.
It helps with that maintenance to hold that's and here's the thing. Everything that you need to know, you already have inside of you. But sometimes you can't see that because you're too close to yourself. So a good coach will just keep that space. I'm not looking to fix you because you're not broken, right?
Right.
I'm here to hold space so that you can work things out, so that you can get the, oh, okay, I understand now where that's coming from. And that makes sense now. And the other thing is being in healing with other women is so important. And I do work with, I do have some male clients as well, but I primarily work with women. We all need to heal, right?
We do.
All of us, if just the women heal, that's going to be a little lopsided.
Right. Wendy
So,
Lee, thank you
yeah.
so much for being on. And I'm thankful to be here as a guest host of the Ladies Power Lunch Free Gift Friday. So thank you for joining us. And again, I'm Jen Jones with Connect and Elevate, helping those introvert women entrepreneurs navigate community, navigate their energy, and build a business that they do on their own terms. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you for your time, Jen. Thank you, Dr. Davia.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody.